This is Hydro Engineering's instructional video for Union Pacific Railroad featuring the Hydroblaster cleaning, containment, and recycling system. This is a tandem axle trailer that holds 500 gallons of water. It has a chemical tank, dual axles. We have locking mechanisms with standard UP locks on all the key features, and we'll go around the trailer and show them to you. This one's for the cone. Here's our 500-gallon water tank. There's also a water drain right here for the water tank. This is a micron filter that takes part in the recycling of the water. These are the discharge drain valves for each one of the tanks, including the filter. This is the recycling system that includes oil coalescing, solid settling, and polishing through a micron filter prior to reuse of the water. This is the chemical tank where you will put your soap. This is the heating element that heats the water as it comes out of the Hydroblaster. This is your chemical pre-spray system hose reel. This is the hot high pressure hose reel. Both of the wands are mounted here on the side of the heating unit. This is the control panel that has all of the controls for the entire system on it. You have filter on off for the recycling system, the choke and starting switch for the engine, the burner switch for the hot high pressure water, chemical pre-spray system that allows you to turn on the pre-spray wand. This allows you to adjust the amount of chemical that's coming out of that. It also has a digital voltmeter, a temperature control, so you can turn it all the way up for high, turn it back down to where you want it, and it may be up about 10 degrees, and that should maintain a pretty stable temperature for you, an hour meter, and a pressure gauge. Now it has a lockable enclosure on it that has both a swivel lock and a padlock with UP's lock on it. Prior to opening the enclosure, make sure you turn the battery lock out to the off position. Coming around this side of the trailer, you'll see that when you open the enclosure, there's a device that holds the enclosure lid in the up position. Make sure you use that. We're going to do a little detail on the inside of the equipment enclosure. This is the gasoline engine that runs the system. This is a generator that produces the 110 volt power for both our air pump charging and our wastewater sump pump that pulls the water from the mats and puts it in the recycling system. This is the battery, the high pressure pumping system. Now this has an eye on it so you can check the oil level daily. The engine has a dipstick that you can check the engine oil daily. This is the pump that is for the wastewater recycling system, high pressure nozzle storage, chemical delivery pump, and two very important filters, one here and one right here, which must be checked and cleaned daily. On this side of the equipment enclosure, there are three valves. This valve right here controls where the Hydroblaster gets its water, either from the 500-gallon water tank or from the antifreeze system, allowing you to freeze protect the Hydroblaster. These two valves determine where the water comes from that goes through the recycling system. This valve controls antifreeze from this same tank and allows you to antifreeze the system in the winter. This valve pulls water from tank number 2 in the filtration equipment, sends it through the 5-micron filter and back to the water tank for reuse. This is the toolbox at the back of the trailer. It houses the rail mats which go inside, along with some other things that you'll need. There's a pumping system. It's 110 volt. It operates off the trailer. We'll show you those electrical receptacles later. There's an extension cord allowing you to power the pumping system. There's an air pump that's battery operated that allows you to blow up the berms on the rail mats to collect the water. There's a lockout tagout box that has all the lockout tagout equipment that you require and a first aid kit. This is the pumping system that removes the water from your rail mats wherever the water is collected. You simply place that in the mat and it pumps the wastewater to the wastewater recycling system. In this location we have 2 lockable fuel tanks, one for gasoline that powers the Hydroblaster, the other for diesel fuel which heats the water.
To start up on the Hydroblaster, we're going to ensure first of all that the water valve supplying water to the Hydroblaster is turned to the position to suck from the 525 gallon freshwater tank. That's this position. Next is to unroll the hose off of the hose reel. The high pressure hose requires all of the hose always to be reeled completely off the reel. And once it's done, set the lock and secure the reel. Same thing with the low pressure hose for the pre-spray soap system, but it only has to have enough hoses as desired rolled off. Set the lock, set the hose reel. Now we're going to fire up the Hydroblaster. The first thing we have to do is turn the battery lockout to the on position. I want to talk a little bit about the control panel. I like to start this system with all of the switches in the off position. The first thing I'm going to do is show you the pre-spray chemical application system. And in order for us to operate, I have to turn the ignition switch to on, firing up power to the system. Turn the pre-spray switch to on. When I pull the trigger, I've got soap application happening, and this is exactly whatever concentration is put in your soap tank. That's the pre-spray soap application. To fire up the Hydroblaster, you're going to need to pull the trigger before you start this system because it will start the machine under no load. So, this is the steps to do that. I will be firing this thing off with the burner in the off position. Once I have this thing started up and it's to pressure, I'll turn the burner ignition switch on. I like to take a look to see at the exhaust rise out of the burner. I pull the trigger, the burner ignition starts, I let the trigger go, it goes off. I'm now safe to operate this machine. So let's go ahead and fire it up. Trigger pulled, choke out, ignition. I'll see heat rise out of the burner, and when I let the trigger go, the heat rise is gone. I know that my burner is functioning only when water is flowing through it. The final thing you need to do before you shut this down is you need to pull the trigger to release any excess pressure that's still in the line. Now you're good to roll up this system and put it on. The only thing we have to do to operate the recycle system, once we have the Hydromat set up, the sump pump in a puddle of water, and it will automatically start once it's in a puddle of water and plugged into 110 volt power. is turn on our filtration pump. What that will do is that will draw water out of our clarifying tank number 2, push it through our micron filter and back into our clean water tank for reuse. For more information, visit hydroblaster.com.